Welcome to the Write Your Own Story podcast. I'm your host, Betsy Leonidas, and the founder of the Write Your Own Story company. Girl, I can tell you right now, you are definitely enough. Here we value service, sisterhood, connection, laughter, and that super genuine, keep it real, tell you like it is honesty. My hope is at the end of each episode, you realize you can do whatever it is you dream about and that you are not alone with what you struggle with. I'm hoping that you are snapping and clapping and hell yes in your way through each one of these episodes. So if this tracks with you, let's get started. I'm so glad you're here. All right, everyone. Welcome back to the latest episode of the Write Your Own Story podcast. I am so excited to be here with Sam Rose, the author of Giving Up the Ghost, an author of quite more, and we will get into it. But Sam, I am so excited to have you here today. Thank you so much.
Oh, I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. We have done all the tech challenges this morning, but we're doing it and we're getting right through it. So I really appreciate the grace. So I love to open up every episode with an intention. I have loved researching you and your work, and I'm really excited for this conversation for people. I want to read my intention kind of directly from the paper because I put a lot of thought into it. So this episode is held as a quiet, brave space for women who have lived in the background of their own lives. The intention of this episode is to sit with the stories we're often afraid to tell, therefore keeping ourselves hidden. Through Sam's journey, we will explore how naming the truth can soften its grip on how stepping out of the shadows can be an act of profound self-trust. May this conversation remind you that your voice very much so matters. I'm very excited to get into your journey. So, Sam, as I understand it, you were a ghostwriter before you were a published writer, and you wrote, lifestyle, all sorts of like wonderful things. What made you make that decision to be a ghostwriter versus a published writer?
Well, a ghostwriter is a published writer,
Okay.
so I've been a ghostwriter for almost 20 years, which is hard to believe. And I have written books predominantly in the voice of other people. So I work with folks who have stories to tell, important messages, and for whatever reason, they don't have the time to write or they're not writers, and they hire someone like me to write as them. And those books have all been published, but I haven't until this book, until Giving Up the Ghost, written in my own voice with my name on the cover. So that's the difference.
Yeah, I was confusing the term published for like actual name on the cover, but of course published means out in the open for sale. Yes. Thank you for that. What made you decide to get into the line of work of writing for other people's stories?
I didn't even know what I was doing for many years. I didn't even know the term ghostwriter. When I first started doing it, I called myself a co-writer or a collaborator, and they're all interchangeable terms. And I fell into it really, but I think I was suited for it because I'm a bit of an introvert, and I was always the kid I was an only child until I was a step kid when I was 8 or 9. But in my early years, I was an only child, and I was often the one kid in a room full of adults, sort of slinking around in the background and listening in on everyone's conversations. And I think that lended itself well to ghostwriting because you really have to put your own voice aside to channel the voice of somebody else. And I've just been doing it for so long now, it's become my automatic habit.
I think a lot of people are nodding along relating to that, to the feeling of being introverted, to sort of like being in the shadows of other people's conversations, preferring listening. And it's interesting that you were kind of able to channel those younger experiences into your profession. Do you feel like in the moment, as you were doing the ghostwriting more predominantly, do you feel like it cost you anything? Did you ever have the urge to use your own voice?
It wasn't until I started writing this book, and I discover a lot of truths about myself in the writing, that I'd been doing this for 2 decades professionally, being a ghost. And that I had become a bit of a ghost in my personal life, and that I
Hmm.
had really um, taken the role to the extreme. And I noticed where I had become quieter. I'd sort of dimmed myself down, hiding and diminishing in my
Hmm.
marriage, in other relationships, just kind of in the world in general, that I had taken on this kind of ghost like quality, and that this was a casualty of the job, that it was working for me professionally because that is the role, to play the ghost, but that it was not serving me in my broader life.
Oh my God, I can relate to that so much. I think we all have examples of the shrinking, the dimming. I even, tongue in cheek, but also very honestly, call myself like a former shapeshifter just to kind of stay low, even though I am very extroverted and I have a large personality, a very large personality. That doesn't mean that I still weren't many scenarios that I wanted to dodge uncomfortableness. Is that
Mhm.
a word? And would shapeshift. So I really appreciate you saying that because I think there are a lot of women listening who just felt so seen. And, we are so hard on ourselves when we aren't acting as we quote unquote should. So when these wonderful women like yourself come on the show and say these honest, hard things out loud, I think everyone's shoulders just relax a little bit and sigh a little bit of relief knowing that they're not alone.
Mhm.
Um, and so I really appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah. Well, I think for me, it was, like I said, an automatic habit, became an automatic habit. And it served me professionally, and it served me probably in my personal life in many capacities. But as an older woman entering midlife, when I wrote the book, I realized it wasn't serving me
Mm.
anymore. And what would that mean? What would it mean then to not dim down?
Oh, the scariest question of all, right? Now, thinking a little bit more about your childhood and my research, it seems like your mom was quite a published journalist with she was more the larger than life personality. Do I have that correct?
That's right.
Yes. So, how did that influence how you showed up or how you sort of sat in the shadows or all of the above?
Hmm. Well, again, writing revealed some truths about our relationship that I
Mm.
was unconscious of. I think she was also an author and a journalist, as you say, and a radio personality and a strong feminist. And she was outspoken and beloved in our community in Northern California. And um, I equate her to a blazing, brilliant sun. She was
Mm.
just full of life and energy and bright, and people gravitated around her. And so did I.
Yeah.
And I realized that I had been playing the moon to her sun for much of my life. And when I realized that, I wasn't resentful of it. I realized, whether it was unconscious or not, that I liked that role because I liked basking in her sunlight, and it
Mm.
felt safe and it felt good. And it wasn't until after she died that I I felt the absence of that light source, and I felt untethered, and I no longer had my gravitational center anymore. And it was now up to me to figure out how to be my own light source.
Oh my gosh. I think that was like, so you talked about how your mom had passed and that this notion of feeling untethered. Would you mind sort of sharing how your mom had passed and how that led you to feel untethered? And then I would love to also talk a little bit more about finding your own light source. I think that is just like such a brave, bold revelation, um, because some people could just settle into the darkness. So I think that it's incredible, but I would love to just give the listeners a little bit more context. So tell us about your mom and her passing, if you wouldn't mind.
Hmm. My mom's name was Susan,
Mm.
and she and I were very close. We were close as when I was a kid, and we grew into adult friends, and we both were lovers of words and writers, so we shared that. We were kind of colleagues in a sense in that way. And she died by suicide,
Mhm.
and this was a shock, as this kind of death always is.
Mm.
And given how she lived her life, because she was so bright and loving and she loved life, she wrote books about how to live a juicy, outspoken life. So it didn't fit her outward persona.
Mm.
It was not how she presented herself to the world. And it wasn't how she'd ever presented herself really to me either. And I felt like I knew her more than most.
Absolutely. I'm so sorry for that, for your loss and for that experience, for it to be a surprise. For loss is hard enough, for it to be a surprise and for it to be so unfitting for everything that you deeply and intrinsically knew about her.
Mhm.
I know, I can only imagine how jarring and, as you say, untethering that must have been.
Yeah, I mean, it was hard there was no context for it. I
Mm,
think suicide is complicated for many
it is.
reasons. The suddenness, for one,
Yes.
and losing my mom. She'd always walked this earth. She'd always been a force and a presence, and she was gone. I had
Mm.
spoken to her that morning, and within hours she was gone. So there's just no context for that kind of seismic shift so quickly.
Yes. Oh my gosh. And suicide is more common than any of us would like. And would you mind sharing sort of like, I know that you had mentioned you've gone from the shock to this like untethered to I need to find my own light source, for someone who's either experienced that and would love to relate, or just recently experienced it and is in that like shock and sort of beginning to become untethered. Like, how did you put one foot in front of the other?
I think it really is putting one foot in front of the
Yeah.
other. It is small movements, small
Yeah.
steps, and to give yourself grace, because there's no blueprint for how to do this.
Mm.
And I had no idea what had shown up on my doorstep on a Tuesday morning. I had
Mhm.
no idea it was coming, and then here it was.
Yeah.
So for me, it was writing.
Mm.
And writing is what I know how to do. It's one of the few things I feel confident doing. And for me, it was the only way for me to start to make sense of what happened and to try to untangle some of those questions that were left behind. And
Absolutely.
it's not everybody's way, but that was my way to start to move forward.
I really appreciate you sharing that. And yes, that's what you do professionally. But for anyone who is, finding themselves, whether in a similar situation or a similar feeling, like writing might be at least something to try. Yeah. Okay. And you had mentioned, obviously, like I'm sure you felt very isolated and clearly very sad. And you had mentioned sort of in my research that writing really was for your survival. Were you finding yourself like, I'm sure the process was not a one size fit all, but was it like things just started like, sometimes when I journal, I call it like rage on a page, when there's just so much swirl, and you're like, I just need to rage on a page because it's like, it is. And it just kind of like natural, it's messy as all get out, but it naturally untangles itself. Were you like having these big burst moments, or was it just kind of like some days it was a couple of words and you're like, I give up? Like, what was it like?
For me, I started working with a grief counselor, and
Wonderful.
this was within just a couple weeks. I knew there was no way I was going to be able to manage this on my own.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
again, this isn't
100%.
everybody's way, but for me, I just knew that I wanted someone that could hold my hand and
Yeah.
someone preferably who was not a stranger to this kind of grief. And
Mhm.
the person I found, we call him Rabbi B. He's no longer a practicing rabbi, but he is a significant character throughout my book and continues to be a significant person in my life. And he was the one, we started talking every week, and
Mhm.
I would jot down just handwritten notes in a journal when we were talking. And that was my that was my writing practice initially.
Yeah.
And those journal pages and a lot of what we said to one another in that first year ended up in the book. And I was so glad that I had written down so much of it at the time because I wouldn't necessarily had remembered it verbatim. But that was how I started. And
Yeah.
sometimes it was definitely messy and it was often rageful. I
Yeah.
write a lot about my anger with my mom and
Sure.
being just out of my mind angry about what she had done and what she'd left behind. And I felt I was given permission, I guess I should say, by him to start channeling that onto the page, which felt a little bit scary and a little bit uncomfortable, and maybe something I should not unleash because women aren't supposed to get angry. Right?
Mhm.
Uh,
Absolutely.
and he really encouraged me to let it out. And once I did, it was very cathartic.
I'm so glad that you were able to let it out. I think so many of us have experience of, as women, we sit on our emotions because, emotion is weakness and out of line, especially anger, to your point, but it just seeps into every cell of your body and settles right in if you're not going to let it out. So I'm so glad that you had that outlet.
I am too.
Yeah. And you had mentioned that in your writing of this, you were sort of able to reconnect with your mom. Is that correct?
That's true. So
I love this.
uh,
I feel very connected to the other side. And, unfortunately, all of us have suffered loss. So I would love to hear about your experience, whatever you want to share.
yeah, I started, like I said, really writing just for myself as a way to process.
Yeah.
And that's about the first third of the book, me writing about grief and what grief feels like and navigating those early stages of loss. And then what happened is what really happened is that I started having dreams. I had one very vivid dream about my mom that kicked off the second part of the book, which where she just floated into my dream one night and she had her dazzling smile and she had this beautiful sweeping silvery sort of starlight hair and she smiled at me and said, "Do you like my hair?" And just kind of wink and
Uh-huh.
disappeared. And for anyone who knew my mom, they would remember that she was obsessed with her hair. She'd always thought it was like too curly or too flat or too frizzy. And she was always seeking out the newest treatment and, you know, serum or whatever the thing was.
Yeah.
And it would be absolutely something that she would want to communicate across the divide is that she had finally nailed the hair problem. And I woke up thinking, oh my God, that really felt real. And was that real? Was
Mm.
this a visitation? Was this more than me imagining something? And so I wrote about it. I wrote it down and I thought about it. It just kept following me around the next day. I kept thinking about her and her hair. And back to the anger, I was kind of like, well, great. I'm so glad that you figured out your hair problem. I'm left here cleaning
Mhm.
up the mess of what you left behind, but I'm so happy for you,
So happy for you, mom.
Yeah. I challenged her. I said, if that was really you, if that was true, then come back.
Mm.
And I start inviting her into my dreams. And I should say, I am a prolific dreamer. I have dreams almost every night and I often remember them. So it wasn't a big ask. I didn't think on my end or even to have the expectation that she may return. And so she did. She started popping in, and those dream dialogues I start writing on the page. And as quickly as I can wake up and get to my computer so that I write them as I remember them.
Oh,
And then I start inviting her to meet me on the page to answer some of these questions that have been left behind. And I figure she and I talked every day.
yeah.
Why shouldn't we continue the conversation? And there's a lot of things I want to talk about. And there are a lot of questions I have. And given how outspoken she was in life, I wanted to give her a voice in her own death.
Oh,
So we start dialoguing on the page, and that's the second part of the book.
oh my God, an absolute page turner. And like, what an incredible experience. I was so curious if you were able to like genuinely dialogue and, ask questions. And I love it's so selfless and such an honor to her to be able to channel the like, I want to give you a voice in your death as well. So what an incredible, generous shift on your part, which I'm sure feels natural for the love you have for your mother. But after suffering so much loss and, amongst the many emotions that come with it and processing all of that to give her the voice, she is a lucky lady to have a daughter like you.
Oh, thanks. Well, I I struggled with it at first because they
Sure.
weren't they weren't warm and fuzzy conversations necessarily. I was the demanding daughter who wanted her to account for what she had done.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and I struggled with the believability of it. Would readers think I was making it up?
Mm.
Um, would people be offended that I'd written in her voice after she had died? Like, how dare I do this? Um, so I thought a lot about it, but ultimately they felt real to me,
Yeah.
and they were helping me understand, come to an understanding, at least one that made sense to me, of what had happened and maybe why. And it was helping me to move forward and to heal. So for those reasons, I decided to keep doing it and to let whoever was to ultimately read this to decide for themselves what they thought was going on.
I have to tell you, I'm literally obsessed with my Aura Ring 4. Honestly, my Apple Watch was way too much noise for me. Stand up, sit down, you have a meeting, you're late, your steps are low, breathe, all the things. But this little ring has been an absolute game changer. It doesn't just track my sleep, it helps me actually rest better. Every morning, I get insights into my recovery, my readiness for the day, and whether my body needs more downtime. It even tracks my steps, my cycle, and literally so much more. If you're someone who loves data, cares about your health, and also loves cute jewelry, this ring is for you. This is a gentle reminder, backed by science, that rest is just as important as hustle. Unlock this powerful tool for better sleep, less stress, and smarter recovery with Aura Ring 4. Use my link in the show notes to get 10% off your Aura Ring today. You've hit on so many incredible things. I think, we talk a lot about on this show around on the other side of fear is something really wonderful. But the fear is just this massive wall, and you named them so specifically. And I think they're so relatable of like fear of judgment, fear of not being believed, fear of stepping out of line. Like these are such, not to marginalize your fears at all, but to like celebrate the commonalities that all of us women are like, oh my God, I feel that all the time. Like, and I think we have these big ideas or these important moments that we know inherently that we want to go after, but those are the things that stand in the way. What was there anything that was specific, like that unlocked your ability to just be like, forget it, this is more important to me? Or was it just like a wonderful example of bravery? Or was there like a mind shift that really like unlocked it for you? Because I think this is pretty profound.
Mm-hmm. Well, the beauty about writing is that you don't have to ever show it to anyone. And I was writing this, and the more I was writing it, and given that I do write books for a living, I thought, I think this is turning into a book, but I don't. Here we go. But I don't have to publish it. I mean, I always reserve the right to not do anything with it, or to edit it, or to change it. But it was, and I wrestled with, should I even do it at all? Like I mentioned, but it was such a nudge. I mean, I felt her following me around, like, get this on the page. And it wasn't even a choice after a point that I had to do this, just to, if anything, exercise a lot of the grief and all the different feelings that fell underneath that umbrella out of my body. And the writing itself became this active channel for me to move a lot of this stuff out of my nervous system. And so I really felt a compulsion that was, like I say, almost not a choice. And as far as making it public, that was a different choice to make later on. And I think what shifted for me was, my mom was outspoken, like I mentioned, but when it came to her mental instability, she withheld. She didn't tell the truth. She didn't say the hardest thing, I think, for her to say out loud, which is, I am struggling, I am scared, I don't know what's going on, and I need help. And so even though those things are hard for me too, and I think hard for a lot of us, and this was uncomfortable for me, given that I'm a ghost and I'm the quiet one and I'm the introvert, and to take the step forward to give voice to these things, to say the things that she wasn't able to say, was the challenge left behind by her death. And so when that mental shift happened, where this is kind of bigger than me, and this is how I honor her, by saying what she couldn't.
And I got this overwhelming feeling that she trusted you so much with these words and believed in you so much as your beautiful ability as a writer. And, of course, honored your relationship, but, she knew that you were strong and brave enough to do this. I don't know. Obviously I didn't know her, but that's just like this huge sort of download that I just got, that I was like, what, like a very special, homage to your guys' relationship to be able to still do this. And so I know obviously you could publish under any name. What made you brave enough to publish under yours?
I was ready to write my own story. And I'd been itching to do that probably for several years leading up to this happening. I wasn't sure what story I was going to tell. And then this is the one that showed up. And it's not the one I wanted to tell, but it was the one that was delivered to me. And it became apparent pretty quickly that it was the only one to tell, and it was very important. So there wasn't a question that I would put my name on it. It was exciting to be able to finally have cover credit. I've had cover credit with other clients, shared cover credit, but I haven't just had my name on a
Yeah.
cover ever, which seemed also like, how has it been that I've
Yeah.
written almost 20 books and this is the first where just my name is underneath the title?
Unbelievable. Do you think what feels different now? I mean, obviously, you've experienced a life changing event. I'm sure everything feels different, but to kind of work through those fears, and like, there's also this sort of like total truth out loud kind of moment. I think a lot of us are so afraid to say our truths out loud. And back to what you were saying about your mother, and that, you know, she was so bright and so vibrant and shared so many things, but the hardest thing she couldn't share. For you, does this feel like you were able to do the share? Like, how is that unlocked for you? The in terms of bravery of like, I was brave enough to say all of these things out loud.
I guess I'm a little surprised still that that was in there. Uh, it's not easy. So I don't want to diminish that saying this scary thing out loud is easy. You just decide to do it one day. It's hard, and that's why we don't do it, right?
Yeah.
Um, but for me, I think it felt like survival, that I saw what happened with my mom, and I saw, of course, I think there were a lot of factors that played into how she ultimately died. But she buried some really hard truths, and that did not serve her.
Mm.
And I didn't want that to happen to me. I
Mm.
was afraid of what might happen if not that I thought I was going to become suicidal, but
Mhm.
I saw what happened with her in terms of withholding and burying. And after she died, all that I was then holding, all the grief and the anger and the questions and the pain of it, what would happen to me if I stuffed it down?
Yeah.
And I didn't want to answer that question. So it was almost like, do this for your own survival,
Mm.
Sam.
Yeah.
And it's going to be uncomfortable. And it was. But I did learn that the more I faced the pain of it, uh, some secrets I realized I'd been tucking away, some of the things that were haunting me that I didn't realize came up through the writing again.
Yeah.
That they all did start to lessen their grip on me incrementally and over time. Not,
Absolutely.
but it does happen. If the facing of it, which feels like the most uncomfortable, ugliest, unpleasant thing, um, is the thing that will loosen the grip.
Absolutely. God, I hope that everyone who's listening who has the deep, dark secrets, you know, to know that, like, really, truly, the only way out is through. And it is absolutely terrifying, as you say. But once you get going, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's so incredible. Are you still in conversation with your mom?
She's around all the time. I mean, I
Yeah.
feel her presence, and having the book out in the world, and now having conversations with people like you, and hearing from readers. She's more top of mind almost. She's part of the conversation, which she would love so much. And so I feel that presence of her. I don't dream about her as much. She'll pop in here and there. Um, but I think that we keep we keep our loved ones close by speaking their name, by continuing rituals, by talking about them and sharing their stories and keeping them present day.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you have, I want to talk about grief a little bit, just for, because it is such a common thing. Given that suicide can be so hard to talk about, were there things that the community in your life did that was helpful, or did that you wish they did differently, in case anyone out there knows someone who's going through what you went through and they want to be supportive and just have no idea how to proceed? What advice do you have?
Suicide is tricky. It's People don't want to talk about it. Most people don't want to talk about it. And I didn't really want to talk about it either. It's dark.
Mm-hmm.
It can feel really scary to even say the word.
Yeah.
Um, when my mom died, it was less than 3 weeks before COVID lockdown.
Oh my gosh.
So I had a very generous community, all these folks that knew her and family members close by who were rising to the occasion and coming in close. A lot of them, you could feel their discomfort with how to talk about it, what to say.
Mm-hmm.
But I was feeling a presence. But then we all had to go lock ourselves behind our own front doors. And so I lost a community that may have been able to hold me for longer.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
It was tricky, but
Yes.
I was able to surround myself. I have sisters. They were very much a part of the whole grieving process and the whole, I call the business of dying, all this paperwork and all the things you have to do to wrap up somebody's life. They were around. And then I had Rabbi B. And then I had a couple friends who were unafraid of it. And that doesn't mean that they said all the right things. These are
Sure.
just people who are willing to bear witness and sit with you and maybe say nothing at all. And
Mm-hmm.
that was most helpful to me, to be able to designate. And again, it was not a lot of people, but I think in my case, a lot of people couldn't be in the picture, given the pandemic. But knowing that, identifying the person or one or two people that can just hold space for what doesn't make sense and for what feels fraught and messy and scary. That is, I think, what I would recommend,
I think that's
for the
incredible.
person going through it, to
Yeah.
identify to identify who that witness can be, and for the friend or the family member of someone who's trying to be comforting. There is no script. Say
Yeah.
something stupid. Say the wrong thing, but say something. I
Yeah.
think a lot of us, I've done this too. We're well intentioned, or we don't want to say the wrong thing. We don't want to upset someone, and so we step back and we don't say anything. And I think that's a miss, and that isn't the right thing to do.
I love that. As simple as just say something, show up. And it is scary because you certainly, to your point, you don't want to say the wrong thing, and you certainly don't want to upset the person who's already grieving. Um,
They're upset anyway.
yeah, right. Low bar. Oh, I think that is really wonderful advice, and simple and clear, which is the best kind of advice. But as you have stated, provides such an impact, because I'm sure as your life is upside down, you just need some anchor points and some safety.
Hmm.
Absolutely. Okay, my next question about grief: when you have hit, the adrenaline is wearing off and you're hitting those like isolating, deeply sad moments. Um, how do you keep going? Or what is like, if someone, that feels like big, big advice. Like if we could have, as we talked about, what is the next foot in front of the other kind of thing?
Hmm. I mean, I'm no grief expert. I have lived experience. And for me, I think recognizing that the grief was not going away,
Mm.
that it was going to shift because everyone tells you it's going to shift or it's going to lighten or it won't feel as acute. That's true. Although that was felt like really annoying commentary in the beginning because
Sure.
it was so big and so ever present. It was on everything. It was in everything. It cast a shadow on everything.
Yeah.
And I couldn't imagine a world in the future where that would shift. So for me, it was accepting that it's here and it lives in my house, it
Mhm.
lives in my body, and it is an indicator of what I've lost. And what I've lost is someone that I loved more than anyone,
Mhm.
except for maybe my son. I tell him that they share the same level of love in my life. They're the two most important people, mom and my son. And so if the grief is so cutting because of the depth of love and loss, then I can live with that. It's uncomfortable,
Yeah.
but it means it has meaning.
Mm.
And I think I just had to accept that. And it did over time become less acute, but it still lives in my house and it still lives in my body. It's alongside me now for the ride. And at this point, it's just a reminder of her.
Yeah.
And I kind of like that there's an edge of grief to my everyday now.
Yeah. I think, do you find that it kind of, my best friend is a widow. And she often talks about how it comes in waves. And, grief comes from many experiences in life. And I find grief to be rather sneaky. Have you ever experienced either of those?
It is very sneaky.
Yeah,
It's got a mind of its own and it's powerful.
indeed.
I equate it in the book to a sneaker. Well, I equate suicide to a sneaker wave in that
Ugh,
you you can be on the beach and everything seems calm and predictable, and out of nowhere, these waves can come up and snatch you. And that's how I felt about the suicide. And with grief, again, I feel like it's its own presence. It's like it's an entity of some kind, and it's got a mind of its own, and it's going to do what it's doing. And I'm going to stop predicting when it enters the room. And
oh, that is so powerful because we try and get ahead of it. We don't want to feel the uncomfortable anymore, but
it
incredible.
it might walk into the room quietly. It might bust down the door like some very, and just, I mean, not to live on pins and needles, but to just know that it will come in and it will go out. So it does recede.
Mhm.
Again, give it, for me, it's like, okay, you're here. I see you. You can take up space. It's kind of like how we all want to feel. Like,
Yeah.
pick me or look at me or I have something to say. And then when we
Yeah.
feel like whoever it is, our audience is like, I see you, I hear you, then it's like, okay, I'll stop now. Sort of like with grief. It's like, okay, I just want you to acknowledge me.
Mm.
And then I'm going to back off a little bit.
Yeah. Oh, that's really beautiful. I mean, it too just wants to be seen.
Yeah.
Hey, fellow boss babe, if you're craving less time on social because it feels like you're constantly in your comments and DMs trying to respond back to your potential customers, I totally get it. When I had my e-commerce business, I felt like I checked Instagram every 5 minutes. But what if there was a smarter, easier way to connect with your audience? Good news, there is. Let me introduce you to ManyChat, my go-to tool for automating messages on Instagram, Facebook, and even text. With ManyChat, you can set up automated conversations in minutes. No tech headaches, no coding required. Trust me, if I can figure it out, so can you. It's perfect for handling links to your offers, growing your list with DM keywords, and even booking clients literally while you sleep. It's efficient, super user-friendly, and honestly, it's like having a virtual assistant built right into your DMs. And the best part? Because you're a friend of the Write Your Own Story podcast, you can try it totally free for your first month. Just use the link in the show notes. Is there anything better than to test something for your business for an entire month with no cost attached? It's my favorite. So if you're ready to save time, respond faster, and turn followers into clients, tap the link in the show notes and give ManyChat a try for free. First month's on me. Grab the offer today and go enjoy a much needed break from your phone. You deserve it. Okay, my next question. When I think about the little girl at the cocktail parties, kind of bobbing and weaving in the background quietly, what would you say to her now if she saw you now?
I think I would tell her that it's okay to take up space.
Mm.
That when you feel ready, because it's really fun to lurk around in the shadows and be the voyeur and eavesdrop. And I still do that. And that's part of what my job is even. But when you feel like you have something to say or contribute, you get to say it and you get to join the conversation.
Mm.
That's what I would tell her.
I love that. I love that so much. And I hope everyone out there who feels quiet in the shadows knows that your voice matters too. Oh my gosh, Sam, this has been, I have been so emotional this whole episode in just like a deeply moved way. You have such a wonderful way of presenting so many complicated, tough feelings, and it's so inspiring. You have this incredible quiet strength that I'm so glad your voice is out loud now because we all need to hear it.
Mm-hmm.
And I so look forward to, I'm headed out on vacation tomorrow. I'm like, how can I get this book in my hands before tomorrow, before I get on the plane? Because I think it just sounds, I'm so curious about the conversations with your mom. And I think they would just be so, raw and real and beautiful and inspiring. So for everyone out there who wants to get their hands on this beautiful book that kind of weaves us all the way through grief and inspires us through honest healing, and then has these incredible conversations between you and your mom, how can we get a hold of that book?
You can order it from most any online retailer, depending on your choice. Amazon, of course, Barnes and Noble, Books a Million. I know there's some Canadian outlets online where you can find it. My website, Yellow Sky Media, I have a link to a lot of those booksellers. You can get it Audible. And you can go into your local independent bookstore, which is my favorite recommendation.
Yes.
And they are unlikely to have it on the shelves, but they can order it and have it for you in a few days. And you can support your local indie that way.
Absolutely. We need to do that as much as we can. Okay, to close us out, if you could give your mom a voice right now and channel any of her words, what do you think she would want to say on this show?
She would want you to go into another hour.
I could. I wish I could.
Closing remarks. I think she would say, similar to what I've said, is use your voice, speak up, say the hard thing, trust that there is someone to hear it and someone to hold it.
God. Again, I'm like, I will not cry. I will not cry.
You
I
can
mean,
cry.
I might.
Crying is
Yeah,
fun.
I certainly can. That was so, so wonderful. Sam, thank you for all of your openness and your vulnerability and for sharing that with not only everyone listening on the show, but for everyone who gets the opportunity to read your book. I'm so thrilled. We will link we will link your site and any other way we can so people can get quick access to the book because it sounds like just an incredible, beautiful read.
Oh, thank you very much.
You're so welcome. And for everyone listening who know someone in their life who is in the grieving process, please share this episode. I hope that it provides comfort, to feel seen, strength. And it's a good one to share because there are so many of us who have people in our lives who are grieving, and we may just not be in that particular process, but we can all be more sensitive and understanding and empathetic, and makes the world a better place. So please share this episode. Sam, thank you again so much. And thank you everyone for listening. We'll catch you next time. Well, that's the end of this episode, but promise me, you won't stop here with whatever it is you're feeling or dreaming about. I hope you leave today feeling empowered to live life just as you see fit. If this podcast was helpful to you, it would mean the world to me if you could leave a review on whatever platform you're listening on. I genuinely just want to help women live the life they dream about. So if this type of content tracks with you, subscribe to this podcast or visit our website, writeyourownstory.co, to download digital courses or to grab a journal and a mug to just dream in and dream with. It's your life, lady. Do you? And just remember, I'm rooting for you and you've totally got this.